So, which is why I've been trying to use all my experience and reach out to colleges in India, students like yourselves, the brightest of the minds, because I want you to be prepared for the world that is coming for you. So that is the whole point of this session, of course. Thank you so much for joining in. I know after a whole day of classes or on a weekend, this is not what you want to be doing, but I really, really, really appreciate your participation. All right, so moving on to who am I? So my name is Nidhi Nagori. Um, I'm a CA from India. I completed my graduation in 2012 from St. Xavier's College, so I'm way older than most of you. You guys are probably kids when I went to college. And whoever the bright person is who's scribbling, I request you to stop doing that. I think we're all professionals, and I expect you guys to behave like them, like one. Okay, started my CA from India, completed my graduation in 2012, completed my CA in 2013. I worked in India for 2 years after my CA. So I did 6 months with a Big Four, where I was in the assurance practice, and then 18 months in an accounting and reporting role with an IT group out of Hyderabad. So I've worked in Calcutta and Hyderabad. And worked in India for 2 years. I moved to the US in 2016. It's been 4 years since I've been in North America now. So I moved in late April of 2016. I started working with a Big Five here in the US. So I worked with them again in insurance for 18 months, after which I moved to my current employer in December of 2017. And I've been working with them ever since. Now I'm in internal audit, process control, improvements, and all of that. So I was able to find a lot of opportunities as an Indian CA. I actually got my CPA in 2019, so I just got it a year ago. Until then, I was completely working based on my Indian CA. And right now I'm in Canada. It's been 10 months since I've been in Canada. I still work for the same employer. Nothing really has changed. I've been very fortunate because I've been able to travel to about 25 plus countries so far, and I've been to 5 continents. Australia and New Zealand is the only one left. I was supposed to go this year, but COVID took over. So I've also done a lot of recruiting in the US, and which is why I kind of have a fair idea of how this system here works. I've been a little active on LinkedIn for the last 2 years, which is where some of you may know me from. And I've spoken at a lot of colleges in India, in Calcutta, Hyderabad, whenever I've been able to visit. A lot of professional forums for CA students. I work very closely with the Canadian government here to help the immigrants. And I work very closely with the CPA aspirants as well. So that is about me. I just have, so in general, I'm a very regular Indian CA. I've done very basic things in my life. I think it's just the opportunities have been different. Okay. Hey guys, I just request you guys to please go on mute if you can. Okay, so why am I here today? Well, I'm here today because the definition of normal that we know has changed completely. Which means that what we're facing together as a human race has, of course, it is unprecedented. And when they say that, okay, when are things going back to normal? That normal, when things go back to it, won't be what we were used to. There is a new normal now. And you'll see a lot of world leaders talking about it, which is your new normal is not maybe going to a concert anymore. So the world is substantially different after the pandemic. A lot of things are going to change. Of course, those changes are not going to be limited to your personal lives. It is going to affect who you are as a professional as well. Because right now, we're going to be working in very, very different times. For example, you won't be having in-person meetings as much, right? Because we've gotten used to working remote and being as effective and as efficient. So what is the need to have in-person meets and increase the risks? So basic things like these are going to change fundamentally. And so what is it that we need to do as professionals to make sure that we're still at advantage, that we're still pretty good, that we're still getting the opportunities that we need? What is it that we should do so that we're able to work as professionals in this new normal? Because you want to succeed, irrespective of the situation out there in the world. You want to make sure that you're doing well. And how do you do that? By being prepared for the new normal, by being cognizant that this is not going to remain the same. Things are going to change. And by accepting that change and modifying yourself according to that, that's what's going to help you. So, what do you need to do? You need to collaborate more. You need to network more. You need to brainstorm more ideas. And you need to be global. The world is going to be all the more global now. And why do I say that? Because think of it right now, all the cost reducing strategies that most companies are going through. What are the best cost reducing strategies? It is moving labor services outside across borders, especially the developed countries. Right now, it's easier for any company in Canada or in the US to outsource a very high skilled job to countries like India, Philippines, Pakistan, Bangladesh. Why? Because you get similar quality. I won't say you get the same quality. You get similar quality, but the price is just way lower. So, which is why there are a lot of opportunities that you're going to see that enter your space right now, that enter your domain, your country now. And you have to be prepared for that. Because these companies don't hire by the whim of it. No. These opportunities do not come to you by the whim of it. You have to be prepared for it. You have to make sure you're doing everything right. You have to make sure you're collaborating with people. You have to make sure you're networking. You have to make sure you are putting yourself out there, letting those people know who you are. And that's what's going to help you. So if you want to succeed in the new normal, you have to make sure that one, you accept the change that we're facing as a human race. And two, you work around that change instead of criticizing, instead of wondering what's going to happen after it. Rather be prepared for it. So I'm going to see what we can start with. So let's start with networking. What really is networking? Now, I think when I was in India, when I was in college, there was no concept of networking. We used to have a bit of these groups, these professional meetup groups, and you could just go and meet, but there was no serious professional growth discussions around. And like I would meet these people, they were super fun. We would go out, maybe get a dinner or something. You would end up making great friends, but it was never a good network. These were not people that you could tap into. They were always trying to know you personally. So that's not network. Network is basically a bunch of people who don't know you personally. You may or may not have met them at all, but they know the kind of professional you are. And how do they know that? They know it because of the way you present yourself on different platforms. They know it because the way you talk to them. So basically, they don't have to know you where you live. They don't have to know if you're married or not. They don't have to know how many cars you own. Nothing, none of that. They just need to know what you do for a living, what are your qualifications, and what is it that you aspire to do. And based on that, they generate their faith in you. And then when you need help, this is the network that comes and saves you. So why is it really important? Well, think of it. Now, we're not going to have a lot of in-person scanning when the HR is looking for candidates. So for example, if somebody's sitting in Europe and they need a candidate, it's not like they can go out, send headhunters to meet different people and find the best talent, because COVID has changed all of that. Right now, everybody is going to look for talent online. So if you have a good global presence online, or if you have a decent global presence online, your chances of being noticed by a headhunter globally are just way more than anyone else who's sitting in the same city but has no global presence. That's why networking is so important. Like I said, of course, these people will never know you personally. And so that gives you a very good medium to create a boundary and to bank up your own space. And of course, it becomes important because whether you're looking for a job, whether you're looking for a business opportunity, whether you're looking to grow in your life, whatever you're looking to do professionally and not personally, of course, personally, whatever you want to do it on your own. This is the group that's going to come up and save you. This is the network that you can tap into. Go to these people for ideas. If you find opportunities, go to them. So that's what network is about. like I said, you're not out there to make friends. These are not people who are going to become your best friends. These are not people who are going to become family. Not at all. This is network. It stays that way. So, what are the mediums to network? What is it that people can do in order to network? Well, there are two, ways to network: the offline mediums and the online mediums. The offline mediums would include in-person meets. Personally, I prefer them a lot because you really get to meet a person and know them very well. So it would include coffee chats, professional networking events, meetup groups, etc. The online mediums, they need a very positive global presence. That would include LinkedIn, platforms like LinkedIn. Like, I think somebody recently mentioned there's a platform called Shapper. I haven't used it, but somebody was saying it was, it's a great medium. You can meet people, network, etc. Phone calls, which is, you meet people and you ask them, you find them on a different platform like LinkedIn, and then you say, hey, would you mind if I schedule a 5-minute or a 10-minute phone call with you just to understand what your ideas are? Zoom calls like these. I actually, 2 days back, there was somebody who reached out to me on LinkedIn with a business opportunity, and then we scheduled a Zoom call. So that's, again, networking. The offline mediums, even though I prefer them, which is coffee chats, professional networking events, which I've been to a bunch of those in North America, meetup groups, these are great, but given the situation, I don't think they're coming back anytime soon. I don't think people will be okay to put themselves out there and meet you, because the risks that we undergo if we're meeting different people, strangers, is just much more at this point. So the offline medias, at least for the next 1 to 2 years, and I say that very confidently because my husband's a doctor, so I know where the world is going in terms of the vaccine and the whole situation around COVID. I don't think these things are coming back anytime soon. So we have to focus on the online mediums. This online medium becomes a very big part of what we do as professionals. Because right now, there is no other way to know you or judge you as a professional. The only way to know and judge you is through online mediums. So you have to make sure that you and your image and the whole network and audience that you build on an online medium is exactly what you want to build. It is not something that happens randomly, because then it is of no use. I can be sitting here and talking to you for 80 minutes, but I can guarantee you will not know anything about me personally. That's the global presence that you want to build. Nobody should know you personally. They should know you, the kind of professional you are. They should know your technical skills, your communication skills, all of that. But there's just no need to know you personally. So you have to create that on a global online platform. So, which is why I feel optimizing platforms like LinkedIn is very, very important. Now, a lot of us hear about it. A lot of us have heard other people talk a lot about it. And it just intuitively, sometimes it doesn't make sense. But let me tell you this, after this pandemic, technology is going to be the king. A lot of people used to say, oh, technology is the future. I used to always say it is the reality. We have to work around it and we have to find a way to master it. So right now, your one big technology tool is LinkedIn. Make sure you master it, because if you don't, someone else will, and they'll have an upper hand on your ambitions. So how can you maximize the gains from an online platform? Well, let me tell you my own stories. I found 2 jobs through LinkedIn, one in India and then one in the US. My second job in India happened through LinkedIn, and back then, this was 5 years back, LinkedIn wasn't even that popular. My second job in the US again happened through LinkedIn. So I'll tell you more about that. This is when LinkedIn was popular. And in North America, it's always been a big thing. So here, college kids are pro at LinkedIn. They're all using it to network. They're all doing a great job. And so I had a recruiter approach me, and for my current employer, of course. So he approached me and he said, hey, there is this opportunity. I sent him my resume. I was already working by that time in a Big Five. And so I sent him my resume, and he looked at it and he said, well, I don't think this is the US format. We need to work on it. I'd already had a couple of conversations with him previously, and I'd also spoken to him over phone. So he felt that I was a good candidate. So there was a professional relationship that we had established, which is why he was willing to invest his time. So a whole evening we sat together on a call, and then he made me redo my whole resume. I redid it and I sent it to him. And then even after that, he found changes. And so he basically spent 4 to 5 hours just fixing my resume without even knowing if I'd go and get the job. Of course, the resume went ahead, it got selected. I was called in for an interview and I finally got it. So that person sitting and doing my resume and fixing it for me, given that I'm an alien to him, given that I've not done my college in the US, given that I'm a complete foreigner, I have nothing to back me up. Why would he do that? Because he can present multiple candidates, and there are a bunch of candidates over me, given that, again, I didn't have a CPA, I didn't have a US college degree. I didn't have, I didn't even sound right. Like, my accent is very different. So why would you invest all that time in helping a total stranger? Well, because he got that feeling that I would be the right candidate. And that's what he told me. He said, I think for this role, you're a great candidate. And so he sat down and invested his time in helping a complete stranger. Why? Because I'd had those conversations on LinkedIn with him previously. That's my example number one. And let me tell you this, I wasn't very active on LinkedIn. This happened when, I got active on LinkedIn after 5 or 6 months after I joined my current job. So this was when I was zero active on LinkedIn. I just had a couple of conversations with different recruiters because I was very new to the country. So I had to make sure that I was meeting and putting myself out there. That's it. That incident made me realize that this platform has a lot of potential. So I started once I got into the job and I, figured out 2-3 months of work, figured the system out, that's when I started getting very, very active on LinkedIn. So when I moved to Canada, which is about, 10 months ago, my employer was like, okay, we can work this out. Don't worry, you don't have to leave the job. So when I decided to move to Canada, I said, okay, I need to tell my network that I'm doing this big move, because I'm changing countries. This is really big. So I wanted to put it out nicely on LinkedIn. And believe it or not, of course, there was no intention to look for a job because I had a job. But I still have it screenshotted. I had like 22 messages from people because when I posted about moving to Toronto last summer, and you can still go and check, that post is still up on LinkedIn, there was a lot of warmth that people showed. And I got 22 messages from different people asking if I'd be interested in interviewing in their companies without even me saying, hey, I'm looking for a job. Because these people have been following my journey on the platform. And when they knew that, hey, I'm coming to the city, they were like, listen, we have a great opportunity and we think you're a good candidate to interview for this role. Of course, I got a lot of business opportunities again through LinkedIn. Very recently, I told you 2 days back, I was on a Skype call with someone with with a great business idea. A couple of months back, there was somebody who approached me for another business idea from New Jersey. Somebody again approached me for another idea to do something completely out of the box in South Africa. So these people have never met me. The only way they know me is through a platform like LinkedIn. And again, if you think this is just my story, I'd like to say it's not, because I do this series on my YouTube channel called CAs Abroad. And where I basically try to show how different CAs have been able to move outside India, because I don't think that any degree can take you outside. You don't have to do any international degree. So that was the whole point of doing that series. Now, if you go and watch, everyone there says use LinkedIn. It's not a coincidence. These guys don't know each other. I think there are 3 episodes that I've shot, 3 different countries, and all of them are saying use platforms like LinkedIn because that's what works. So, it's not my story only. This is how powerful this network is. And if you're not using it correctly, you are making a mistake because someone else is using it correctly. So they will have an upper hand over you. Now, there is no good time to start or stop. I wish when I was in college, I started off on LinkedIn, because kids here in college, they are on LinkedIn from their first day in the college. I think in high school, they have a session on it, and that's when they start getting onto the platform. So they are way ahead of us in the race. So, if you are not there, or even if you're there, being dormant doesn't help. You have to be an active user of the platform. Now, I'm going to tell you how to start using it actively, because all this conversation is of no use if you don't really know how to use it. So let's start. Okay, so let's start with a couple of tips that I can give you to play around, and we will go into the details. You can make sure that you have a good headshot, make sure you have a very catchy headline. We'll go through all of that in details. Very interesting bio, personalized invites over regular invites, relationship building introductions over transactional introductions, which basically means don't send a message to people saying, hi, I'm looking for a job. Please find my CV attached, blah, blah, blah. No, that's not how this is very transactional. Nobody's going to help you. Nobody's there to be used. Because if you send a message to someone like that, to someone saying, hey, this is my CV, please find me a job, it just feels like the relationship that you're trying to build is transactional, that you're trying to get something out of it. That's not what you want. As humans, we don't want that. We're just not conditioned that way. We are people who love living in tribes. We are people who want to be loved and liked and respected. So keep that in mind. Make sure that you're always trying to have a good relationship building introduction. Always structure thoughts for posts. Now it's important to post, and we'll go over that in detail as well. Keep it in line with your target network. Now, target network is very, very crucial and very critical to define. It's not a coincidence that my target network, even though I live in North America, and when I started using LinkedIn, my base was completely North America. My target audience is 90% India. And it is mostly students. That's not a coincidence. I've built that. So I've thought about it. So think about your target audience. What is it the target audience that you want to build? Like, for example, if you potentially want to move to Europe, 3 years down the line, that's your target audience. You need to write posts and structure things around your target audience. So make sure you're always thinking about what is your target network that you want to reach? What is the kind of audience that you want to reach? Why? Because you could have a network, but if you don't have your right target network, it could give you nothing. It's only because I've been able to define my target network well that I've been able to utilize this platform right. So for example, if you are in finance and if you're always, if you're, at least for the first 2 to 3 years, if you're going to be looking for opportunities in finance, in that case, there is no point in adding IT people. Like, there's no point in making your whole network about IT. So please make sure that you're always constantly thinking about your target network. That will also help you post content about your target network. Most importantly, be patient, because these things take time. If you start building a network today, it's going to take at least 6 to 8 months before you have a decent network who can help you out and who you can talk to, and etc. So headline and headshot. So of course, this is my headshot, and that's my employer name. And FYI, my employer has a lot of rules and regulations. So because I do all this work, I have to add a disclaimer. My opinions are personal. It has nothing to do with my employer, Lincoln Electric. Whatever I'm saying here is independent of what I do for them. So on that note, I see somebody saying, oh, I can be arrested for doing that. Well, you can get me arrested, and I'm in Canada, in Toronto. Maybe you can call the police. And thanks for the good joke, by the way. Okay, guys. All right. So about me, this is my picture. That's my headshot. Now, this has been given to me by my employer. Before that, I didn't have it. So you don't really need a very fancy picture. Let me tell you that. What you need is just something that shows your face pretty well, and something that basically shows you smiling and confident. You don't need to look extensively handsome, pretty, etc. I think for men, what always works is a clean shaved look. And apart from that, nothing else. For women, I'd say, just a smile is fine. Don't try to add selfies. Don't try to add group photos, family photos, wedding pictures, etc. Don't try to do all of that. And don't try to, go crazy with the background or anything. And whoever's scribbling, thank you so much for doing it. It just shows, I can see your name, by the way, so I would love to call it out, but it just shows what kind of a professional you're going to be in your life. So thank you so much for scribbling on the screen. It really shows your, and don't think that, I can't see it. I host this session, so host has all the views. All right. On that note, you don't have to look extensively pretty or anything. Of course, make sure that you're looking confident. Smile is important, guys. If you're not smiling, that's a problem. You don't want to be looking here and there. Look straight into the camera and just get a very decent picture. Now, of course, there is no need for you to get a professional headshot. Like I said, I got this by my employer. Before this, I didn't have a professional headshot. I had a very normal picture. What you can do is stand in front of a regular background and have someone take your picture. That's the kind of picture I had it. Of course, because of the requirements that my employer has, we got it changed. But you can see there is nothing crazy about it. Make sure your picture always is real. You want to look like that picture. You shouldn't be in complete contrast with that picture, because you don't want people to be like, for example, if you are talking to somebody on LinkedIn about a potential job opportunity and you schedule a Skype call or a Zoom call with them, you don't want to look like a completely different person. They shouldn't be, because I know this has happened to me at least. So there was a candidate that we were interviewing for our team, and the person was based in south of the US. And so, we we saw this person and the profile was great. And then we get on to a Skype call, back then it was Skype, and the person looked way different. And so we just went like, oh. So, you don't want that to happen. You want to have a picture that looks like you. And of course, if you feel that, after 4 or 5 years, if you feel a little differently or look different, or you've gone and gotten a complete different look, like for example, if I were to chop off my hair, I would change the picture. So make sure that it's always in sync with what you're looking like. Make sure you use I think the limit here for for the headline is 144 characters. The best way to build a headline is to be, what is it that you want to be defined by? So I know most of y'all are students, so I would definitely add stuff like SRCC / maybe like BCom honors or / CA aspirant, or economic honors or whatever. But what is it that you want to be known by? So for example, me, I'm a CA, I'm a CPA. I have controls and process improvements. So, I want to be known by that because that is my field of interest. That's what I do for a living. I definitely want to be known by the fact that I've traveled a lot and I've worked in a lot of countries. And I want to be known by my roots. So my roots are India. And I've also lived in the US and now I live in Canada. Because I recently started on YouTube, I do want to put it out there because I want people to know that I'm doing something like that. And I don't know if you've noticed, I've changed it at least, like I keep changing it once in 2 or 3 months, depending on what is it that I want to define myself by. So this header is what is it that you want to define yourself by. Don't randomly put things, and what happens is if you don't put anything there, LinkedIn picks up an auto header for you. So make sure that you're always defining it. Use all the characters as much as possible. If it could be anything. Like you want to write traveler, that's fine. At some point I had fitness enthusiast because I enjoyed that and I felt that defines me very well. Then at some point I had Triac mentor. So Triac is a government agency in Canada. So I still do some work with them. It's still in my bio, but I don't have it on the header. So really it depends, if you're working with a not-for-profit, if you're doing an internship. Like I said, if you have nothing, if it's plain, then I would just put SRCC / BCom honors. If you have anything apart from BCom honors, I would put / CA or CS aspirant. Just make sure that you have a very well-defined header. So, there is, and another thing that I want to point out is it's not a coincidence that this is blue and this is also a shade of blue. It all merges seamlessly. You definitely want to be wearing clothes that in the picture that do not take attention away from your skin. So nothing extremely bright, no yellow, no orange. So just make sure that everything is toned down so that the only focus in your headshot has to be on your face, nowhere else. Okay. Personalized connection and relationship building. Now, if you like a profile of someone, do not sit and send. Just like, I think, hitting the connect button is very easy. But then if you can go and send in personalized connection and relationships, that would really help. So what happens is LinkedIn has an option of send a personalized note. So every time you hit a connect, I think now the way it works is every time you hit connect, it'll tell you can also send a personalized note with it. So this is a very simple thing that I put out there. Hi, XYZ, I came across a post of yours. If you went to their profile through a post that they wrote, or if you just randomly came across their profile. Hey, I came across your profile and realized there's a lot that I can learn by having someone like yourself in my network. Congrats on the achievements. Personalized connection, according to LinkedIn itself, they increase your chances of getting your connections accepted by over 60%. And to give you a real example, so I have this course for soft skills, and just yesterday, somebody from one of my students, she was telling me that she started sending personalized connections to people that she'd been following for really long. And she tried sending them connection requests before and they'd never accepted. And so this time she went in after the class and then she sent them a personalized connection. And she sent it to about 8 people. And I think within a couple of hours, 6 of them had accepted. And she was already, she'd already started talking to people. So that is why personalized connections are important, because that shows, if you're sending it, think of it from the other person's viewpoint. If you're sending a personalized connection to someone else, they're going to look at that whole message because it pops up with the request. And it tells me that, hey, this person took time. This person went through my profile. This person went through my post. There is a reason why this person wants to connect with me. They're just not there to, okay, hit connect to 6 different people. No, it takes time to type a whole message. So, that really helps you stand a chance of getting your connection accepted, because to the other person, you've taken effort to reach out to them. And there is something that you can learn from them. You're not just going to be in their network lying dormantly. Of course, this is a very simple, straight up message. You can change it. There may be people that you really, really like. So change it according to, hey, I came across a post of yours about immigration. Hey, I came across a post of yours about M&A, anything. So, you can modify it, but of course, these really help. So try sending personalized connections to people and do not make it transactional. Do not make the whole thing about, hey, your first message should not be, hey, can we get on a quick call to talk about certain opportunities? Or, if it's a field that you're interested in. So for example, if I'm looking for investment banking, okay, for example, that's not my interest, but okay, so hypothetically. So I'm looking for an investment banking role, and I find a couple of people in my network. This is how I would go about it. First I go and I find on LinkedIn who is in investment banking. Now I'm going to, of course, find people in maybe private equity, hedge funds, et cetera, or investment banking associates, asset management, whatever. So I type in those words, I find a few people, I send connection requests, personalized connection requests to all of them. Yes, all of them may not accept, which is fine. Some of them will. So whoever accepts my connection request, I go like, hey, I'm thoroughly impressed by your profile. How is it that you've been able to achieve so much at such a young age or in such a short span of time? And just want to know what your journey has been like. If you're busy, I understand we can have this conversation later, but I wanted to put it out there. So I'm not starting off very transactionally. I'm just asking the other person, hey, I just want to know your journey. This, because a relationship is not transactional, this is going to have them put in time to respond to you. Again, don't send a hi or a hello. Send a full message. And there is a balance. Don't send like 80 questions. There are times that people write a huge message, which is about 1,000 words. And really, like, most of us don't have time to go through 1,000 words. We have a full-time job, so nobody's going to sit and read all these messages. Try to be as concise as possible. And in those small sentences and messages, make sure that you're putting your thoughts out the right way. You don't want to sound transactional. You don't want to sound like, oh, I'm here to only talk about investment banking and how to find a job. No, you want to sound about, you need to know what kind of a journey the other person had as a professional. And what is it that you can learn from their journey? And then secondly, you don't want to write a bunch of words. However good your grammar may be and however good your English may be, if you write long and huge messages, remember that it demands time from the other person, and the other person may or may not have that time. So you have only one chance, one shot. That first message has to be right. So that first message has to be, like I said, hey, this doesn't have to be done right now. We can talk about it later. Full stop. Whenever you hear back from them, start having a conversation. Don't say upfront, hey, I'm interested in this. No. Say stuff like, you know what, I'm still trying to figure out where my interests lie. And since this is one of the fields that I'm considering, I thought maybe talking to someone like you may really help. Say things like that. Make them feel that you're not just there looking for something out of it. No. And then, of course, when you start having the conversation, you guys are bright enough. It's going to be very organic from there. It's going to be real, and always keep it very simple and real. Be the person that you are, because people can see through it. The people that you're going to talk to have way more experience than you. So don't ever think that you can say nice words and fool them. That's not going to happen. These people are very experienced. In the first one or two messages, they'll figure out the kind of person that you are. So make sure that you're being real, but at the same time, make sure that you are always cognizant of the fact that you're using their time. So you want to be cognizant that, okay, this person is giving me their time. How do I make sure that this time that they're giving me is of use to both of us? And, I'll tell you how relationship building helps. So I've done this. I do a lot of programs with immigrants here. And one of the programs that I'd done, one of the mentors that I had, he was a finance controller for one of the international hotel groups. He recently switched his job just yesterday. And so I saw it. I messaged him, hey, congrats. And so he said, hey, you know what? I have this opening in my team. Do you think you could refer someone? This is just this morning, like I think 15 minutes before our meeting. And so I sent that message to the Canada group that I have. I think I have about 5 groups, and it has about 1,000 people. And so I sent it to them, and I said, guys, so I'm not going to name the person. His name starts with we. So I said, whoever came to that session, I'm sure you guys have met we. So we has switched his team, has switched his employer, and now he has an opening under him. So guys, whoever's met him, just make sure that, of course, anybody could apply, but I think whoever's met him has a better chance. And think of it, had I not met this person in the event, had I not called him, and I did not know him before that, I found him on LinkedIn, I messaged him, and he came for that event, he mentored these nice people. I saw this morning that he changed his employer. I reached out to him, he says, oh, well, you know what, I have this opening. And then I go and I send that message to him, to the people who attended the session. And then a lot of them will get considered only because they've met we at some point, even if it was that session. So, which is why that, because my relationship with we is not transactional, that really helps him have the faith to tell me, hey, I'm hiring someone. Is there someone that you can refer? Which I think becomes very important. He doesn't know me. He trusts my judgment. If I tell this to someone, if I refer someone to his team, he would consider it seriously only because he's only known me through that, one event where I've invited him and he came as a mentor, and that's it, we done. But because there was nothing transactional, he trusted me with that opening. So guys, make sure it works. Trust me. It doesn't matter how experienced you are. I'm not that experienced. I qualified my CA in 2013. So it's only been 7 years. And in 7 years, like, I've worked in completely different countries, right? So I'm not an expert in Canadian GAAP or Canadian tax laws or any of that sort. I just moved 10 months ago. But even then, people here have a slight trust in me when it comes to openings in their team. So yes, if you don't try to build transactional relationships, it will definitely work out. And let me tell you this, I only started on LinkedIn in 2 years. So whatever stories you're hearing are of the last 2 years. This is not of the last 7 years that I've been working. So, and actually 1.5 years, not even 2. So I started getting active in LinkedIn end of 2018. So in 1.5 years, this is where I've been able to reach. You can definitely be here in the next 8, 9, 10 months, depending on how aggressively you use the platform and how well you use it. And you guys are college students, make sure you use it well. So before you step out into the real world, you want to have a network which is not transactional, which believes in you, which has faith in you, and which knows the kind of professional you are and which values you. So put in that time and make sure that you're doing it. Of course, like I said, deciding a network is a big part of it. LinkedIn is a process, okay? So a platform like LinkedIn, and I'm not saying you only have to do LinkedIn. I think this is for any professional networking platform that you're using. It works both ways. You give and you get. So you have to be sure that you're putting content. Define your content. What is the kind of content that you want to post? Because your content is going to attract, your content always has to attract your target audience or network. So think about the target audience that you want to reach. If you want to reach managers in a certain, in big fours, then you have to post content that is understood by managers in big four. If you want to reach audience in smaller towns, then you have to post content that reaches smaller town, because everybody uses LinkedIn. There are 500 million users. If you define your target audience well, and if you post content for them, then you attract the right kind of target audience. It is not a coincidence that my biggest target audience is in India and is mostly finance people. So that hasn't happened automatically. Let me tell you that. So I've always posted content which was more amenable and understood and accepted by my target audience. So be sure of that, please. Always make sure that you're posting things. Please post it on your audience's defined time and keep it real and relatable. What always works is not your extremely detailed posts on income tax or interest rates. What works is your real life stories, because that is what makes you more relatable. So try to put in real stories, try to put in relatable stories. And LinkedIn has a great feature. Use hashtags, because you could be trending on those hashtags and LinkedIn will send you a notification. A lot of my students try, when they send me screenshots, hey, I've been trending, it's never happened. So that'll boost your confidence and it'll up your confidence like never before. So find hashtags, use hashtags, and post at right time. Make sure that if you're trying to post for your audience in India, you're posting on the times that Indian audience will be available. So which means don't post content at 2 a.m. in the night. Nobody's going to be there to read it. Post content at maybe 9 p.m. because that's when most people are going to be on their cell phones, using their cell phones, right? So, or scrolling through a platform like LinkedIn. And then, of course, like I said, keep it real, relatable. Okay, now if you're scared and anxious and wondering why you need to do it, well, I'll tell you this. Putting your thoughts out in the public is tough, period. Okay, this is real. I still get very anxious when I'm putting my thoughts out. Not because I don't care about how people will perceive it, because it doesn't affect the kind of professional I am. I'm very confident and I know what I want to do and where I want to get in my professional life. So I don't care about how people that are not a part of my small, intimate world, how are they going to take it? I don't care about that. Yes, but I do care about, okay, is this going to make someone feel negative? Not about me, but in general. But if you want to let the global world give you a chance, you have to take a chance too. One of the big reasons that I started getting active on a platform like LinkedIn is because, and I was far behind in my game, okay? Because if I knew that if I want to get up my game in North America, where I'm a complete stranger, nobody knows me, I've not gone to college here, and this is a place where if you don't go to college here, it's a big deal. And at least in finance, it is a very, very big deal. This is still a very non-immigrant pool, I would say. I think that's the right term, yes. So finance is still very non-diverse in this part of the world. And even in Europe, I've worked extensively in Europe, so I can tell you that. Even in Europe, finance is not very diverse. So if you are trying to break through without any background in these countries, it is very difficult. So if you've not gone to college here, if you don't look like them, which we don't because we come from a very different country, you don't speak like them. Yes, we don't, because again, English is not our first language. Most of our homes, we don't speak English first language. So in that case, if you really want to be a global professional, you have to put yourself out there, because they're not going to come and find you. If they're going to find there are many like you in the race who are available, you are the one who has to stand out if you want that opportunity. And how do you do that? By putting your thoughts out, by letting people perceive you through your thoughts. And you don't have to write anything too intimate or too personal. Write what you're comfortable about, but write it. Make sure you're putting it in the right time. Make sure you're making content according to your network. Make sure you're defining it. Make sure you're reaching out to people. Make sure you have a good headshot. Everything, all of it is a package. None of this can go here and there. Not like, okay, it shouldn't be like, oh, I don't have a good LinkedIn headshot. That's fine. I'll start networking. That's not going to happen. If you don't have a good headshot, nobody's going to accept your connection. Nobody's going to respond to your messages. So all of this goes in a sync. So if you let them into your personal space, they will get to know what kind of a professional you are. And that's why it's important. So when you go back after this session today, what I want you to do is I want you to take some time and figure out, one, what are your professional goals? What kind of a role do you want to do? And by being global, I don't really mean leaving India. Please don't get me wrong here. The world is very global at this point. Anything you do is global. So do you want to be successful globally? Do you want to have a good global professional image? If the answer is yes, then you need to sit down, think about what is it that I need to change in my own LinkedIn profile? What are the other platforms for networking that I want to use? Once you've made those changes, once you've thought about, okay, these are the changes that I want to make, then you go about defining your target network. What are the kind of people I want to approach? Now, this could be anything. Maybe you don't want to work after 3 years or 2 years or 1 year after you graduate. Maybe you don't want to do that. Maybe you want to study further. Okay, that's fine too. Find people who studied further. Find those people. Try to talk to them. Okay, if you don't want to study further, if you don't want to work, you want to start your business, that's fine too. Try understanding what are the different lines of businesses that you can go into and find those people again. If you want to have a startup, find people, talk to them. The key is that you have to learn from other people's experiences. And you can, and people will respond to you. It's just that it needs a little bit of push from your end to put yourself out there. And if you don't do that, you're not going to have all these opportunities come to you. And let me also tell you this, that it takes multiple posts for you to be noticed. So if you ask me, if you write maybe, now if I write something, yes, it is well accepted and received. But when I started, I think I would say like you have to write about 15 odd posts for one to be noticed and well received. So if you want to start writing, make sure that you put down 30 topics together. Otherwise, you'll get demoralized. Put down 30 topics together and then create a little bit of content around it. And then, define when you want to post it. It could be once a week. It could be twice a week. If you have 30 topics, you don't have to worry about, what am I going to post the next time? Because you already have those things written. You already have the topics. So you don't have to worry about, okay, what is it that I have to post? No. Of course, if you're posting anything and if you want people to notice it, view it, and you feel like you want to tag a few people. That's okay. That's fine. Don't tag 80 people. I'm sure you've seen on LinkedIn, there are people who like tag a whole bunch of people and the whole section looks blue. Don't do that. Tag a few people with whom you think you have a good professional relationship. For example, if you want to go and write about anything, like say if you want to write about this session today, and then if you tag me, then it makes sense, right? Because then it comes out very natural. And then yes, leverage someone else's network. That's also fine. You're not doing anything wrong there. You're just trying to leverage someone else's network. Do that. If you don't want to write on LinkedIn, that's fine too. Get a good LinkedIn profile. And suppose there are certain kind of people that you like. Go and find them in your own network or in your network's network. So for example, if there's somebody that you really like and you want to talk to in my network, let me know. I'm happy to make introductions. There are about 45,000 people right now. So go find people. Who is it that you want to talk to? Who is it that you want to have that conversation with? And please don't get scared thinking, hey, I'm a young college student, because I've been there too. And I've done it in a complete foreign land, and I've done it and I've been just okay. People will take chances on you if you take a chance on them. And so after this pandemic, if you really, really, really want to do well, if you want the global world to notice you, make sure you have a good online presence in whatever form and format. I only promote LinkedIn because all recruiters are active on LinkedIn. So yes, if you want to get global opportunities, and I can tell you this, there was this one time, I'll give you a little story also. There was this one time I was talking to this girl on LinkedIn. She was going through a very bad marriage. She was a CA, but she just got married. And then 6 months after the marriage fell apart. She wasn't doing very well. She used to live in Bombay. And so after the marriage, her husband had demanded that she stop working. So she wasn't working. So now 6 months later, the marriage fell apart, and you don't have anything to support you financially. So she wanted to go back to work. Now she had stopped working a year and a half ago when she got engaged. So she had this big, huge gap in her resume. So I had spoken to her all throughout while her marriage was rough. I knew she was going and getting a divorce and everything. And I remember posting about just the fact that, that there is somebody who really wants to work, and for personal reasons, she had to quit, etc. It's been 18 months of a gap on her resume. And again, this is not somebody that I know personally. Okay. So I posted, and one of the guys from one of the big eights in Luxembourg in Europe noticed it. And so he reached out to me, and then I put them in touch, and she got a job in one of the big eights in Luxembourg. They sponsored her visa. All of that happened. And, she moved. And this is real. I mean, I posted a picture on Instagram yesterday. I'll be honest, I've not been in touch with her. I posted a picture on Instagram yesterday, and then she commented. Her first person to comment on that was her. And of course, it's very difficult for me to be in touch, but I cannot tell you how proud I felt that, this girl who basically had nothing working for her in her life, straight up out of the blue finds. And let me tell you, I'm not the one who got that job, okay? I was only the medium. She leveraged my network. I was only the medium. She interviewed, she did all of it. She was qualified, and she was skilled enough to have a complete foreigner trust her, who sponsored her visa. I went through her offer letter and all of that, and this was a year ago. So I think she's also changed her employer by now. She's still in Luxembourg. And, she moved from having nothing in her life through that one little platform to this one little platform. She was able to get to something so huge in her life. She's doing pretty well right now. And I was really surprised that she hadn't forgotten, that she still went and took the time and effort to comment and tell me that she still remembers me. So yes, you will be able to make a difference to not just your lives, but to lives of many other professionals. And I'll tell you, once you have a network, you will never go around looking for anything. Today, I don't go around looking for a job, even though I don't want to change a job. I have recruiters reach out to me. Yes, what I do is I'm like, hey, I'm not looking for a job, but I know other people who are. Can I forward this to them? And 9 out of 10 times the recruiter agrees, and then I'm able to put other people in touch with these people. So that way I've been able to help people find jobs from India in Europe, people find jobs in the US from India, in Canada from India. And it's only happened because they've leveraged my network right. I've been able to leverage my own network right. And they've been skilled enough. And I've had that kind of faith in them only through this platform, only because they were using this platform right. So make sure that, yes, you're young, but make sure you're starting right now. Because I was too late into the game. Who knows where I'd be if I started when I was your age? And that's why I wanted to do these sessions, because I really believe you guys have a lot of potential. You are the future. So if you start well, and if you start right now, who knows where you can go? So that's all, guys. That's all from my end. I don't want to talk a lot. And, once again, I'm sorry for that twisted accent. I know it does sound a little weird. So I will be coming to the questions. I just want to say, yes, my LinkedIn is there, but, the max is 30K. So I've crossed that. So if you're going to send me a request, I'll not be able to accept it. If there are questions, you can definitely send me an email, or you can message me on Instagram. I'll respond. So, if there's anything after the session that you want to know, if there's anything in specific that you want to talk about, make sure you use those to, and if you are connected with me on LinkedIn, of course, send me a message on LinkedIn. And now I am going to see who wants to talk. And, okay. So I see there are a lot of questions here. So I'll just go ahead and add it. Okay, let me see. The first question that I'm taking is, Kritiraj Sharma is asking, we do not require premium account for that. No, you do not. For personalized connections, no, you don't need premium account. You can send personalized connections to everyone. Someone said, hey, I'm a non-attending college student. How can I build my network? Which kind of people should I add into my LinkedIn? That's from Ria. So, of course, you're a non-college attending student. That's fine. You don't really have to go to college to add certain kind of people. You should have a fair idea because you're an adult. So you should have a fair bit of idea about what you want to do, right? So if when I was probably your age, I did not know I want to do internal audit and controls and improvements. I agree to that, but I knew that I wanted to do something in audit and accounting space because I didn't like tax. So have a rough idea about what you like, and then find those people and have them be a part of your connections. I'll also let you guys speak. I'm just going through the chats, so I'll also let you guys speak. I'll unmute you and then we can talk. So yes, like I said, have a good, decent idea about the kind of work that you possibly want to do in future. You could be wanting to do law, you could be wanting to do audit, you could be wanting to do accounting, and that's fine. Do a little bit of research, and then try and find people. Now, if you want to find somebody in audit, remember there are multiple levels of audits, right? So you want to find somebody in internal, concurrent, statutory. We call it external here, so maybe external audit. So figure it out that way. Like, have a rough idea and then go into the details and make sure you add these people. And if you do it early on, what it'll also help with is you'll be able to have conversation with these people. You'll be able to talk to these people, and that'll also help you figure out what is it that really interests you. So which means, you wouldn't be sitting, once you are really into the real world, you wouldn't be trying six different things and being like, oh my God, I don't even like this, I don't even like this, I don't even like this. No, make sure you use the platform and figure out what is it that you like. Can you suggest what kind of finance professionals one must add in their LinkedIn profile? I would say add all kinds, especially if you're unsure of what you want to do in your life, add all kinds of finance professionals. Because like I said, you can talk to them and you can figure out what is it that what is it you can build on. Kajal is asking a very good question. What kind of posts, contents as students we should put on LinkedIn? Now, I'll tell you this. I'm not a student, but I still post about my student days because it is very real and relatable. So post about the real stories of being a student. If you are a CA student, post about articleship, post about tuitions. If you are not a CA student, post about college, post about college fests. How did it help you? Maybe team building events or anything that you're learning in college. Just don't try to make it too technical, because if things are too technical, you won't get a lot of engagement on those posts. So make sure you're posting real life stories and real life content that gets the most amount of engagement. Bhavika is saying, what would you advise to CA freshers? Wait for the perfect job of your interest or settle for a job in which you are relatively less interested in the current scenario? Bhavika, honestly, I have done the second. I've gone through, when I was in India, there were some personal challenges in life. And so I had to take up a role that paid me very well, which was, and my role in accounting and reporting. And trust me, great team, great employer. They paid me more than double of what I was making. I did it for 18 months, but I only did it for money. And I did not like it, but at that point, that was my priority. So do what is your priority. If you feel that you're not going to find the perfect job, because the way I look at things is your career is going to be there for 40 years. What you do in the first 2-3 years does not define the next 35 years of your career. No. So what you do in the first 5 years is completely fine. What you do in the first 20 years will define the next 20 years. So you will get a chance to revamp and relearn and all of that. Right now, think about your priorities. If you think that your priority right now is getting a job, then get a job. If you think your priority is, if you think you're financially and mentally stable enough to sit at home and look for the perfect job, that's fine too. It's about you and it's about your priorities. Okay. Dolly saying, we know the present scenario of COVID is very difficult, especially for CA freshers. What will you recommend for them? And I think one of the things that I do want to put out there is I do see some hiring in offshore. If you're a CA fresher and you're looking for opportunities, I think that's a great place. And by no means is offshore bad. I've not worked in offshore, but I did a little bit of work in US GAAP, and that is the experience that helped me find a job here. Because think of it, if I'm an employer in Canada, who would I prefer? Somebody who's worked in Indian GAAP or somebody who's worked in US or Canadian GAAP? Of course, somebody who's worked in US or Canadian GAAP, right? So if you worked in Indian GAAP, it's great. Of course, you should. But offshore is not bad. That's what I'm trying to say. There's nothing that's bad or good. So there is some hiring going on, and I understand the scenario is tough, but if you have a good network, it's not that tough. Trust me. I mean, scenario is bad everywhere, but if you ask people who have a good network, they still find it okay. Like, you just need people to take a chance on you. Okay, Vipul is asking, should we go for consulting or direct into industry? I am, this is my bias. I always like to go for Big Four first, because especially if you're looking to work in different countries, because um, in finance, at least in our world, in corporate finance, not in investment banking, but like in corporate finance, there is nothing like a Big Four because it's a very seamless brand. Everybody universally knows it, as opposed to working for a company which has its back office in India, because like most people here won't know it. So you will be able to transition your experience better if you have some Big Four or Big Eight experience. Prakhar is asking how to remain active on LinkedIn. What should we post to engage with our connections? Like I said, post real life stories. They create the most amount of engagements. Post things that are true and real, and you will see the amount of engagement that you generate. So the course that I do, Bridging the Gap, this is exactly what I tell them. And if you just go and if you even look at the hashtag Bridging the Gap with Nidhi, you're going to see so many people have generated engagement only because they've posted about their real life story, and all their posts were trending. Like they sent me screenshots, and I've always been like, what? But yeah, real life stories get the most amount of engagement. Okay. Divyam, ma'am, can we have more than one target network or multiple target networks? Yes, of course you can. You can have multiple target networks. You don't have to be limited to one. So absolutely. Ritu is asking, can I join LinkedIn now or after giving CA finals? Yes, you can. Of course, whenever you want to join it, join it. Vaibhav, are there jobs for CA freshers outside India? No, I would say, okay, so here's my thing. If you are a CA fresher or become fresher or whatever, if you've just qualified for any profession, think of it logically. If there's an employer sitting here and you're applying for an opportunity, the first question I'm going to ask you, if you wanted to move, why would you do a degree and not work with it? So what is your answer to that then? There is no answer, right? Because if you're applying for a job in Canada, my question to you as an employer, very logically, would be, if you wanted to work in Canada, why did you do CA? Why didn't you do CPA Canada straight up? So, and there is no answer to that. So my advice is, if you're a CA fresher or any fresher, basically, work in India, get 2 years in, and then start looking for opportunities outside. Krishna is saying, ma'am, I'm doing CA and after this I'll go for CPA Canada. Then how can I build a network for that? I would find people who are CAs and CPA Canada, people who've done that, and then I would try to send them connection requests. And another thing that I want to add here is, guys, because we are from India, we're blessed in a sense that we are from a decently populated country, and our chances of getting accepted and having good conversations with Indian people or Indian origin people are just way higher. Why? Because the environment that we've grown up in is similar, as opposed to us trying to approach other people, especially if we have no exposure. It's been 4 years for me in North America. I would still say that I'm way more comfortable talking to somebody who is from any developing country for that matter, because what we've gone through is similar. And we understand each other much better than people who were born and raised in a developed country. Not to say that they're not going to have a good relationship with you. Of course, it will happen, and it will happen if you've had some experience. But if you're not in Canada, it's difficult to build those relationships in Canada. And it's with Canadians, with like native Canadians. Thank you, Ritu. Vasavi is saying, I want to know the exam pattern of CPA. I have a very detailed structure on my YouTube for CPA US, so please go watch it. There's something for CPA Canada also. So yes. Ishika is saying, is LinkedIn beneficial for future doctors? My husband's a doctor, and I think he's done pretty well too. So I would say yes. Shiny, personalized posts to target audience that you mentioned. Can you please give an example from your experience? So personalized, I didn't say personalized post, I set personalized connection request. And every time that I get a personalized note with a connection request, even though I cannot accept it because I'm maxed out on my connections, there is a reply button that LinkedIn gives us. So I'm able to go and respond to that person. And I always, always, always do it because, I know the person has taken time to write a message to me. So I will always reply. Sushant, how much time should I invest on LinkedIn as a CA student and what type of content should I post? Depends on the kind of person, a phone user you are. I'm a very, I do not like using phones at all. So I have a screen timer that goes off after 2 hours. So my social media apps get blocked, which is amazing. I wait in the morning for that to happen so that, and all my notifications are also off, by the way. So I'm not a screen person at all to begin with. So I invest maybe like at max 2 hours in a day on all social media platforms. And I'm not very active on, I am active on Instagram, but I'm not like very active on Facebook and stuff. So that's my time limit. You can decide the kind of person that you are. I would say spend more time on LinkedIn, less time on other platforms. And what type of content should I post? I think I've answered that. Try to post things that are real. Kritiraj, how important are the features like endorsing the skills and recommendation? I don't think people look at that. I'll be very honest with you. As a recruiter, and I've learned it from my recruiter network here. So I host a lot of webinars for people here, and like I said, I work closely with the Canadian government also, with their offices also, the groups that they have. So the only thing the recruiters focus on is your headshot and your headline, and maybe like the first 2 or 3 lines of your bio. That's it, nothing else. So if you have skills recommendations, most people are not even going to read it because it needs a lot of scrolling down. And as humans, our current generation does not have that attention span. We have an attention span of 7 seconds. So whatever you can see on a person's profile in the first 7 seconds catches your attention. So yes, you have all those features and it's great to have it, but I mean, I don't think, like, most people don't look at it. Vipul, how should we maintain personal and professional life? By having it completely different. You can't have a personal and professional life that's same. You have to be able to switch off from your professional life, and you have to be able to find that balance. And that only comes with time and experience. Let me tell you that. Don't try to struggle with it right now, especially if you're just starting out. It's going to take a few years. But I can tell you, if you try, you will definitely be able to find that balance. Parikshit, hey, thank you so much for that info. I want to know how to be able to land in a traveling job while being in finance. Is it actually possible? Yes, it is. I have it, and all my colleagues have it too. So it is possible. What you have to do is you have to find fields that let you travel. So if you are in tax, that's not going to let you travel, right? Because it's not a lot of traveling. If you're in consulting, yes. If you're in M&A, yes. If you are in internal audit, yes. So those are the fields that let you travel. And then if that is your interest, then yes, please try and find something that a field that lets you travel, that is fluid that way, and then it will happen. Then you have to constantly make sure that you're going and tapping into those kind of roles. Aditi, is it risky to directly communicate with people holding position of CEO or CFO? It's not risky, but they're also not the people who are most active on platforms like LinkedIn. And they are also the people who get a lot of messages. So the chances of them coming across your message is way low. So I would start off with people who are seniors or like managers or senior managers at max. Don't even go to director level because, those people are not very active. And again, they get a lot of messages from other people. Sushant, how can I join your soft skills course as I face too much difficulty in meeting unknown people and talking to them? You know what? You have my email address. Send it to me. My team, I have a small team in India that operates that email address. So the next batch is full, but we have one more batch coming after that. So they will be able to give you all the details for that. So just send them an email. Purna, ma'am, can you please send detail about your experience in 25 countries and how to get that opportunity? I think I've already spoken about how to get that opportunity. I found a field that let me travel. And so it's just that my interest was in a field that, involves a lot of travel. So that's how I did it. But my experience in working in all these countries, well, I'd say that West is very similar. Europe and North America are very similar. Asia is more or less similar. So whether you're working in Malaysia, Singapore, Thailand, India, they are very similar. All those countries, they work similarly. Like basic differences, like you would hear, calling people for work is extreme. Like that's 911 level emergency for us. We don't do that. We'll probably start off with an email. If somebody hasn't responded to us, then we'll maybe drop them a text on their office cell phone, by the way. If they don't respond on the office cell phone, then we'll go on to the personal cell phone. If it is like something that, oh my God, like this cannot wait, only then will we pick up the phone and call. But I noticed this in Singapore also, which I thought was very cosmopolitan. I noticed that people were texting each other on WhatsApp even there. So yeah, these countries are very similar. South America is very, very similar to how Asia works. Europe and North America are very similar. So yeah, that's been my experience. Tanushri, would you recommend to do an MBA finance to someone who's not done from a premier institute, having approx 2 years in Big Four? I wouldn't recommend doing any course for the heck of it, because I don't think courses add value. Let me be very honest. At least, and I think if you want to do an MBA to add depth to your career, it has to be from a good institute. Getting an MBA from anything below a top 10 is, it's like, oh, is it really, how does it, then you have to really sit down and think, does it really impact where I'm going? Because it's not about getting an MBA. It's about putting those 2 years into getting the MBA, which also means that you will be 2 years behind your peers who are already progressing in their career. And that'll also be time that you've lost, and that'll also be money that you've lost. So that is a decision that you should take. Of course, if you're interested in doing an MBA, do it. Don't do it only because you think it's gonna help you cover up something on your resume. That's not how it works. Do things that interest you, and they will definitely help you. Radhika, ma'am, what is the scope of US CMA and CFA on a global level for a fresher? I've done videos on both, and both the videos coincidentally have been with on my YouTube. So both of them are with people who are in Canada, so you can understand what is the global opportunities for that. How to overcome our anxiety? I'm in 12th standard, and after this, I will go for UK ACCA. How can I build a network for this? What I would say is, I think it's important to take things as they come. There are no shortcuts. So don't be patient and don't be in a hurry to achieve something. CPA from US or from Canada. Depends where you want to be. If you want to be in Canada, why do a US CPA? Akansha, anything is possible if you put your heart to it. So don't ever think, oh my God, my dreams are too big. No. Honestly, before I got this job, I never thought I would get a job where I'd be able to see the world and I would have an employer pay for that. So yeah, don't ever let anyone tell you things are not possible. How to find recruiters on LinkedIn? Parikshit, very simple. Just type the word recruiter or type the word HR associate, and you'll find recruiters. Just in the search box. Surya Kiran, how can we find jobs on LinkedIn? People post jobs all the time, not in just the jobs bar, but also on posts. So if you have a big enough network, you'll come across jobs. Isha, do you provide a certificate on completion of your course? Not really. I mean, it's not something that I do very formally. I'll be very honest. I do a very detailed, like the soft skills course is very, very detailed because there are mock interviews, there are group discussions. I force you to talk to strangers. And it's very nominal. There's like literally nothing because I cannot take any money apart from my employment. It pays me very well. So there's no certificate, but I can tell you this: if you've been a little active on LinkedIn, you've probably come across people, my students, writing about how good the course has been. This is not me. It's not because the course is great or anything. Please don't get it that way. It's because I just know that there are gaps that I faced myself when I moved from India to North America. I realized that I'll tell you the bigger problem was not the fact that I wasn't technically skilled, because debits and credits are the same everywhere, right? Like golden rule of accounting doesn't change. Auditing standards don't change in the sense that what is fraud in India is also fraud in North America, right? Like the definition of these things by and large don't change. So why is it that we are not confident in displaying our skills here? It's because the way our education system is structured, we're not taught to think and speak our thoughts out. We're used to just thinking. And then after 5 minutes of thinking, then we'll speak. So what I'm trying to do is just bridge that little gap. I'm just trying to make you confident to put your thoughts out. I was actually talking with a colleague just yesterday. He is from Kenya, and he has kids who were born and raised in, my team is still in the US, guys, by the way. I moved to Canada, so everybody's still in the US. So his kids are born and raised in the US. And he was telling me, he's like, Nidhi, one of the things that I've noticed in my kids is that they don't know as much as I do. Like, his kids are older now, so one is in grade 9. So he was saying that my son doesn't know as much as I know, in the sense that, of course, when you're from Kenya or when you're from India, which are developing countries, you learn a lot more. But he said, my son is way more confident. Whatever he knows, he's very confident in expressing that. And that is the gap. And that is a gap that, you won't be able to bridge it because nobody is teaching you how to do that. So that's what I'm trying to do through my course. Okay, there's nothing big, there's no certificate. The only thing I'm trying to do is I'm trying to push you out so that you can go out and talk in public, so that you don't have a fear of talking to people you don't know. Okay, so Pranit is asking, CA, CPA, or MBA for investment banking? I would say MBA from a good institute. How to do self-preparation for CPA as it is too costly? Tanushri, I have done self-study, but self-study, of course, means buying study materials, and that is costly. Yes. But if you don't buy the study materials, you're not going to pass the exam because the format is very different. Technically, nothing changes. It's just the way they ask the questions that is very different. And if you don't know how to answer them, then, it's going to be difficult. You won't be able to clear it. Mayank, hey Nidhi, following you on LinkedIn and YouTube and had great insights on CPA. How were you able to manage all the course? How did you manage that? If you had doubts. Well, honestly, I'm actually doing a very detailed subject by subject breakdown of CPA. So you guys will be able to, on my YouTube, that's going to be up, not this week, next week. So I'm going to be doing all the 4 subjects in details, where I'm going to tell you where is it different from what you studied in India. So then you'll know which are the areas that we need to put more focus on, because those are the areas that are different. And that's how I managed. I just found which areas are way different from what I studied. And by the time I wrote CPA, it had been 3 years that I was working in the US. So I did have a fair bit of experience. But yeah, in general, being technically strong, I can tell you Indian finance professionals are just way strong. So don't worry. Is it necessary to have any work experience before going to Canada? Well, if you want to go to any country, I think you need to have decent work experience in your home country. How to approach internal audit for a fresher without IE experience during CA articleship? 2 ways. One is to go through a Big Four. Big Fours hire extensively. It's called risk advisory. They hire extensively for internal audit. And once you've done that, you can get into industry. And the second way is, of course, trying to apply for companies' internal audit profiles. Pavani, where to find your soft skills course? Just send me an email. You see that email address, Nidhi Nagori 2905. Just send an email. Like I said, batch 3 is full and we get sold out like in 1 or 2 days. So batch 3 is starting on 3rd June. Batch 4 is coming out after that. So batch 4, I think it starts on June 13th or something. So that's when we're still looking at that tentative date. What is the duration of your soft skills course? Aditi is asking that. 7 days a week, 1 hour of a session. But of course, it is not much of me talking. And if you cannot do it, you will have class recordings. It's not the session that matters. What matters is coursework. So you have to force yourself to, talk. Work pressure in finance sector, Tanushree is asking. Honestly, I think work pressure is there. I won't disagree. Yes. And there's a lot of work pressure, but those things subside when you find things of meaning in your life. So if you are able to disconnect your personal life from your professional life, you don't feel the pressure as much as, you probably would otherwise. Okay. Oh gosh, I just scrolled up like a Dolly saying, I come from a very small city. I know have the ability, but I feel I'm underconfident in communicating. Dolly, I come from a village. It's called Baudia. You guys can look it up. And I have a very, I'm not going to go into my detailed story, but I literally come from a village and I've lived there until I was 12 or 13. So even if you're coming from a small town, if I can do this, you can. I mean, I have like I come from a literal what they call gao. So yes, please don't ever think that you cannot. Of course, it needs a little bit of pushing yourself out there. And if you're not confident in communicating, and if you guys don't want to kind of do any kind of a course or anything, this is what you can do. You can reach out to your friends, and you can ask your friends if they want to do something together, if they want to start a group together, or if they want to you can talk to your friends, get like 5 or 6 people together and start talking to them in English. What really helped me is the fact that, because I wasn't great in English either, let me tell you that. Um, with me, what helped me was that my husband and I generally talk in English. So he made that rule that, hey, if you want to get good in this, if you want to get good in projecting your thoughts out in English, you need to start using it more. So with him, I started talking more in English. So even if it's one person, you have to find one person who you can talk to. Otherwise, of course, and that is, of course, if you don't want to do any course. Krishna is asking, is it make any difference? Okay, guys, I just want to remind you all, we have 6 more minutes, and after that, we're going to shut off. So, is it going to make any difference to do CPA Canada? CPA Canada exams can only be written from Canada. So I made there's a video on YouTube with somebody who did CPA Canada just in September this year, so you can go through that. Webhub, is your course online or offline? It's online. It's delivered through Zoom. Purna, how to build network in corporates as Big Four are huge. Find people in different cities. That's what I always advise people to do. Find people in different cities, and don't stick to one city. Find people in, and then you have offshore units everywhere. You have onshore units everywhere in India. Find people in different cities and connect with them, because every office has its own culture. Oh, well, Surya is saying I've been searching for a long time, but I'm not able to get a job on LinkedIn. You know what? There's no set format. If you're constantly going to post about, hey, I need a job, that's not going to happen. Like I said, um, you have to be looking for it the right way, and maybe make those changes to your profile. And who knows? And if you're only on LinkedIn to find a job, it may also not happen. Like I said, the platform works two-way. You give and you get. If you're giving nothing to the platform, it's not going to get you anything. So on that note, guys, I think Dolly, thank you so much. I really, really appreciate it. And to everybody who's been here, I appreciate your time today. Hoping you guys stay safe during this pandemic. Take care of your families and your loved ones. Stay safe, and all the best, guys. Please, please, please do not get scared. This pandemic is going to get over soon, and we're going to come out on the brighter side, and we'll have great insights into the world. And I hope you are prepared for that, because I'm certainly prepared for you to be prepared for that. And all the best. I'm rooting for you, and I hope that you guys achieve everything that you want to achieve in your life. Good luck, stay safe, and namaste.